Welcome to the final Audi Innovation Series of 2023. The Audi Innovation Series features global icons, visionaries, and trendsetters from various fields of expertise. Over the past 7 years, the series has sparked meaningful conversations among Canadians from coast to coast. And it continues to underscore Audi's commitment to drive progress through innovation, creativity, and dialogue. Today, we are honored to welcome one of the world's most iconic fashion designers to our innovation stage, Vera Wang. Having revolutionized the bridal wear industry, Vera Wang went on to create a design and lifestyle brand that is respected the world over. She is known for her creativity, her attention to detail, and her commitment to innovation. Her masterful work has been honored with numerous accolades, including a Lifetime Achievement Award. Today's discussion will be moderated by Kate Betts, award-winning journalist, editor, and author. Kate has been covering the world of fashion, style, and design for decades, which includes her role as the top editor for Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, and Time magazine. She's also a critically acclaimed best-selling author. With that, please join me on welcoming Vera Wang and Kate Betts to the Audi Innovation stage.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this, Vera. It's great to see you.
Really thrilled.
So we're going to start with your very first big event of your life, your career, which was when you were a teenager and you nearly qualified for the Olympic figure skating team.
You're really kind to say nearly qualified.
How did that experience of sports influence you, and what did you carry forward into your career?
God, it was, such formative years. I mean, I really started at 7, which isn't early for figure skating, believe it or not. But after devoting so much of my life until I was 20, 13 years, I didn't really attain my dream. And being able to deal with that at that age, at 19 or 20, is a very, very difficult thing to do. I mean, you're praying you make the Olympic team, not even winning Olympics, but just making the team for your country. And the fact I failed. Very simply, I did not make it. And I think that taught me so much about failure. I think a lot of my career originally was defined by a lot of failures, not just in skating. And it teaches you that there is life after failure. Failure is an option, unfortunately, and yet failure doesn't define you. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that was really, really important lesson in life, and I've carried it with me all the way. When you fall, the metaphor in skating is get up and try again. Mm-hmm. And when I finally quit skating, I realized there was this empty spot in my heart, not just in my life. And I worked very hard to try to find myself in the context of a life after skating, which I think a lot of people do, or very career-driven or goal-driven, when they quit tennis playing or when they quit being CEO of a bank, they have to readdress and reassess their lives. And so I did do that at a fairly young age, at 19 and 20. I'd say, what next? Mm-hmm. But you do learn that failure, you can really learn from failure. And what it really teaches you ultimately, that it's not necessarily about the end goal. It's about the process. Mm-hmm. And the process, in a way, is far more important and lasting than the end goal, because you bring that process with you to everything you do after.
Mm-hmm. Now, you launched your bridal brand after a very accomplished career at Vogue as a fashion director, at Ralph Lauren as the design director. What was the impetus or the motivation or the inspiration to take that big entrepreneurial step?
Well, let's be very honest. I was single, not a marriage possibility in sight, spoken like many, many editors. And I finally got engaged and I went on the hunt for the dress. And when it comes to getting married, everybody is an amateur, at least the first time. So as much as I've been a senior fashion editor at Vogue, I really had no idea what to wear for a wedding. And of course, I wanted to run to Carl, or I wanted to run to, the designers I knew. I was working for Ralph at the time as a design director. And, I just thought to myself, what do I want to look like? What should I wear? I was completely confused. And also, I was 40. I wasn't like 27 or 30. So I felt very awkward in a lot of the wedding stores or departments, and everybody was so much younger. So I really had a very difficult time. And my father at the time identified that there was this white space that no one seemed to tackle, which was either you were in the bridal industry or you went to couture. You went to Paris and had Carl do a dress, or wherever, Dior or Valentino or whatever. And, you know, most women are neither. And so he really identified an opportunity that was this big white space that he thought would be a great business for me to start. Very, very low inventory in fabrics. The bad thing and the good thing is you make a dress, but it's not out of control. You don't have to go negotiating with stores and markdown money and all that. So he really identified an incredible, incredible business opportunity for me. I'm not sure I was ready. I was barely ready to get married, let alone jump into a business with weddings. But the truth is that it really turned out to be yet another discovery process for me after so many years at Vogue, so many years at Ralph. And here I was starting my own company at 40.
And
who knew?
And defining the business, really.
I think the fact I wasn't in the wedding business is what helped me define it. I think had I been a wedding designer, it would have never happened. But I came from such a incredible career, and two incredible careers, and neither of them had anything to do with weddings. So I brought that freedom. I think I brought that freedom, the no rules, and didn't really know better. So, I just did what I thought was fashion. I think we brought fashion to bridal.
But you also brought a lot of innovation, and the
Yes.
Audi Innovation Series is about design, creativity, innovation, and risk-taking.
Absolutely.
So how do you define those elements in your life, and how do they manifest in your work?
I think what Audi embodies is very much a philosophy that I've lived by. There can be no true creativity without rule breaking to some degree, without risk. To follow the status quo works in some cases, certainly within the framework of a company. But for the leader of a company, I think you really have to be able to balance that understanding of what really sells and works with risk-taking. There's just no way that you can be truly creative without at some point letting go and just saying, let's give this a shot. Because otherwise you really fall into the status quo. And I think today, that's something we all have to be very aware of in any of the businesses, not just creative. Because ultimately, business is creative. By its very nature, business is constantly changing, whether you're in tech, whether you're on Wall Street, it's constantly evolving. And I think there has to be a certain measured amount of risk-taking. And you have to be prepared for the results, because it can benefit you, but it can also kill you.
When we are talking about innovation, when you look at design today, what innovation most impresses you or shocks you?
I think there are many things. I think the more you think things have changed traditionally in fashion, the more sometimes you discover they haven't changed that much. I mean, big companies have way more ability to nurture talent, to grow talent, and to create more product. And yet, when you're small and you're independent, there is that feeling of pioneering, and there is that feeling of artisanal, and there is that feeling of a freedom. You don't have to feel the pressure of a big company. So it's a two-sided sword like everything else. But I also think that to be really relevant, you have to stay very open. And today, at warp speed, you have to stay very open to all the shifts, not only what's going on in fashion, but what's going on in the world, what's going on in business, what's going on in politics. They've all seemed to merge together. And when I started, I could stay very focused on fashion with a capital F. But now I realize that fashion penetrates so many different worlds, and all the other worlds penetrate fashion. You know, whether it's Amazon or whether it's Louis Vuitton, or whether it's Ralph Lauren, or whether it's us. I mean, I don't think there's a fashion company today that has survived and continues to evolve without paying real attention to what's going on globally. There is no other way to be able to operate in a world where you're not aware of repercussions. In our case, supply chain issues that affected us just like cars. I mean, all these different things, production, staffing, 2-day work weeks in a creative industry. I mean, these are things we've all had to be challenged by and face and confront. And it is not easy.
When you look at the bridal business today, how has it evolved?
I like to think we helped evolve it. I think we really turned the tables on everything. I did one collection that was based on underwear, and it was all black and nude, because I noticed all my friends only wore nude underwear in the day and black underwear at night, or vice versa. And I think what I saw was that was really the most seductive. So I did a whole wedding collection based on black and nude only, and very sophisticated and very sexy and very imaginative. The bride wore black. And people gave me reviews saying I was depressed, or why did I do a black collection, or what was I thinking? But you know, black is ubiquitous. We all love black. And no matter what anyone says, and it's not just in New York. They like to say it's just a New York thing, but it's Paris, it's London, it's Miami, it's LA, it's everywhere in the world. And I think that that was another statement. There is a sophistication that people say exists in fashion, where some of the most influential designers like Yohji Yamamoto, Rei Kawasabi, Tom Ford, Marc Jacobs, I mean, so Prada, there have been so many designers that embrace black, because ultimately it's the most abstract. And the wonderful thing about black is you can move it in so many different directions. It can be architectural, it can be extremely decorative. I mean, it's just one of the basics of fashion, no matter what anyone says. And even if you're not a house known for black, at some point or another, you will do black. And I think when I did that collection, I was really trying to shake things up a little. I mean, imagine doing 35 years of white dresses. So following that, I did other collections where I did, one year I was influenced very much by China. We were moving into China, and I based the collection on red and different shades of red, because in China that symbolizes good luck. And so, you know, I try to draw my references and my creativity from things that are happening all over the world, but also it's happening to us and our perception, my perception of what the market is. And I don't like to be predictable. So the very fact that I've made all these leaps of faith, one year was fully about, you know, ballerinas, and that may sound obvious, but the way we interpreted it was not. And so I think that that kind of creativity to bring to a world that's quite traditional. Bridal, in the end, is still very driven by a certain kind of, I don't know, costume-like devotion to what a bride symbolizes. And I was determined to crush all of it. I just said, why? I mean, you can have that, but why can't you have other alternatives?
Who inspires you today in fashion?
Oh, that was a rough question for me, because so many women do, and men. But I have to say, in all fairness, I think if I really searched my soul, I would say women in general today inspire me. I think women are doing more amazing things than they've ever done. Things my generation could never have dreamt of. I mean, it was, you know, we're not defined by a man or through a man. And I think already right there, that is a massive, massive step in terms of culture, in terms of life, in terms of future generations. And I come from that generation of women's lib in the 70s. And even though we were very responsible for that, the progress was not that immediate or that direct. I mean, Gloria Steinem is still with us and still very much promoting everything. We need her because she speaks from the past to all the young women today. And when I thought about it seriously, I just said, it's women, young women, all the women I know, and their hopes and their inspiration and their intelligence and their courage. I just think women today are terrific. And not because I have 2 daughters, but really because I just see a real change. Sometimes you're not aware of change when you're living it, but you step back a few steps and you remember what it used to be like. Then you really, you begin to realize that we've made a lot of progress.
What hobbies or lifestyle choices help you maintain perspective and inspire you creatively?
Well, I love golf, even though I started very late, because just trying to hit that little white ball takes you on a real mental escape. Tennis, I've always loved. I mean, I don't play like I used to play, but I enjoy it enormously. I find tennis very rewarding. It's great exercise. You can go at your own pace. I don't mean competitive tennis. I mean just family tennis. But it's something else I can share. My daughters both play tennis and golf, and we have fun doing it. Family golf, family tennis. And I think for me, that's an escape. That's the way I can get away from the pressures of running a company and, constantly having to stay relevant and all the things we all face today as business people and artists. And I think those are 2 things. And the other thing I always talk about is rest. I think being Asian, I have to say that that sleep is very valued. Mm-hmm. It's a very valued commodity to be able to rest. It's not very American because as far as I know, everybody wants to cram in as much as they can in a day. It's like, how much can you get in? But for me, my heritage has, imbued me with this sense of needing to rest and refresh and rethink and reevaluate. And I always say that to people, what are one of the things that your so-called secrets? And I say my secret really for a better quality of life is being able to let go and relax and sleep. It's very rejuvenating. And when I have a lot of problems, even in design, I will walk away. I never used to be able to do this, but I will walk away and say, okay, this isn't working, but I'm going to try it tomorrow or the day after. That ability to be able to let go, I think is very, very important.
Let's talk about sustainability.
Yes. These were not easy questions.
How do you see fashion becoming sustainable? What are the practical applications of sustainability?
I think there are certain things that are going to be very difficult for us as an industry to tackle. I mean, the production of fabrics, age-old, centuries old, thousands of years old, spinning fabrics, yarns, that whole process is very embedded in the actual creation of fashion. And to be able to change that, including what kind of water you use for dyeing, for production, for operating factories, all these different components are not, you don't change that in a year or 2. And it's going to take, a lot, not only money, it's going to take a lot of know-how, and it's going to take a lot of people who are in a position that can really affect change. That's not every designer using, recycled fabric. I'm talking about something on a much different level. It's extremely difficult. And I believe that attention has been called to that in our entire industry. But that doesn't mean we can solve that problem right away, because it's so multi-step, it's so ingrained, involves so many countries, involves all different kinds of processes. So that's not easy. But I do feel that if each of us starts to edit what we do in a more careful way and try to produce our collections more effectively, and by that I mean the processes you involve or you need to create clothing. And not only that, the amount you create. Mm-hmm. I think being your own editor is the best way for every designer, whether you're beginning or whether you're an established house, I think we create way too much product and there's so much waste. And by that, I mean, you could produce 60 to 100 dresses for a collection, or you could produce 2,000, 5,000 pieces for a big runway show. And instead of sort of producing and thinking afterwards, well, a lot of this is tossed aside because we're not going to use it. That right there is a lot of waste. So I think in how you relate to the design process and how you create clothing today, we owe it, each of us, within our own companies and the way we function, to be more effective and to produce less. By that, I don't mean produce less well. I mean produce just less.
How do you manage innovation today in your business?
I mean, I try to be extremely flexible. I think that's really, really important, especially today. Flexibility is something that, you just can't get stuck in your ways because the world's changing so quickly. And being able to pivot is very, very important. Brand elasticity, that a brand can be defined in so many other ways, is something that I've seen from my mentor, Ralph Lauren. Today, when you have a brand, now more than ever, you should be able to really move that brand into other ways, specific, obviously, to your brand. But I know in our case, we started in bridal and evening wear. And what's really happened is I've been able to build over the years very relatable and logical steps, such as fragrance, such as home, such as bridal lines at a different price point. They're more democratic. I think that ability to be more elastic as a brand is very, very important and part of innovating today. And I think the same thing applies to flexibility. You have to be flexible. You cannot be stuck within a box, within a silo, and you're completely defined by that. I think that's very limiting. I think it's impossible today, actually, in business. And for me, those three, pivoting, flexibility, and elasticity, are the most important things for keeping a business relevant.
What is the one piece of advice you would give to a young fashion designer starting out today?
That's really easy. I think that you should work for someone. If you're lucky enough to work for someone that really inspires you and who you really respect, that is a dream come true, because they're paying you and exposing you to learn. I can't think of, it's like going to school, but being paid to go to school. And I don't think anything beats that. You learn so much, and the onus of operation and profitability and creativity, none of that is on you when you start. You're just there to soak up like a sponge the whole process. And to me, that's really important. Even if you can't get a job with someone that your first choice or the house you love the most, just getting in and working and finding out whether you really like it. I've had interns who have come to me saying, oh, I love fashion. I want to work in fashion. And I don't know if it's because of my company, but many of them by the end of their internship have said, well, I don't really like fashion anymore. So I really recommend that students coming out of college or design school, that they really take the time to work first. Learn the industry, learn the business, and get paid while you're doing it. And to me, there isn't better advice I can give. You're not going to come in and suddenly become Ralph Lauren. You just aren't. And that learning curve is large. And the sooner you get into it and begin your journey, your own personal journey, the sooner you'll be able to define who you want to be, how you want to be within the industry.
Thank you. That was great.
Good.